first got married to a policeman, it was a bit frightening. I'd lived the whole of my life in Rye and I had to move away from my family. I was very, very shy, and we moved to Brighton. Totally different, didn't know anybody, and I was very, very lonely. I was lonely because I didn't know anyone. I had to change my job, and my husband was working shift work. We'd just bought a house and had hardly any furniture in it or carpets or anything because we weren't intending to buy a house. It was all gazumping. We suddenly decided, yes, we'll buy a house. We couldn't move into it for 3 weeks. And so I was in a house with no television, no radio, no husband because he was working shift work, having to sleep on my own at nights, and going to work every day and walking from my house to Preston Grove every day. It was a long way. And I didn't know anyone at all. Didn't even know my neighbours.
My first meeting with Frank was in a cafe. I was working in a cafe. I used to take seasonal cafe work very often. And he came in with a gang of his workmates, and it started from there. He'd not long come out of doing his army service in Germany, and he went back to his old job, which was building the wooden groins on the beach. And that was very heavy work, and of course all hours of the day and night because it's tidal. And he thought, when we thought about getting married, that he needed something a bit better than that. And it had been in his mind to join the police force, so he decided that's what he'd do. So he joined in 1949 and we married in 1950.
As I said, I didn't know anyone. Didn't go anywhere to meet people. My husband didn't like me going out in the evening because we had his landlady, who I made friends with, lived about 250, 300 yards up at Five Ways near where I lived. He didn't like me going up there in the evening while he was working. And he said, you can't go out, and Brighton's not like Rye, it's quite a dangerous place. You can't just wander around on your own. So I only really made friends with people at work. And at work, they were mostly older people. And there was one young girl there who'd got married the week before me, and we made friends. And I tended to see her in the day, but in the evening I didn't see anyone at all. I was just indoors on my own. And so then Phil found out about the wives group down at Brighton, and he went along and talked to them. And I went along to the wives group, and that was a real lifesaver because suddenly I was seeing people who were going through the same things as I was. There were a lot of older mums who could say, yes, no, you can do this, you can do that. There were younger ones like me who were feeling really, really lonely. So the wives group definitely helped.
We used to have just evening get-togethers where we'd play games, different things, have a little dance, have a raffle. Nothing terribly exciting, but it was all very friendly, and we could all meet each other because when you're in the police force and you do different shifts, it's very difficult to keep up with your friends who aren't in the police force, because whenever they want to go out, your husband's on duty or in bed. It makes life difficult, so you tend to keep your friends amongst the police force, and we had some very nice friends.
The wives group, the Brighton Police Wives group, was a real lifesaver for me. We did all sorts of things. We got visiting speakers in. We went out for meals, and then they had parties like barbecues in gardens, because some of the police wives had big enough gardens you could go and have barbecues there. Like most wives group, but they were all going through the same things. When we went down, they couldn't all go every month because sometimes their husband was on a different shift and they got children, so they couldn't get down there. And until I had my children, it was a real lifesaver. Some of the things that my husband did socially that I was involved in, he would go to the motor club group, and he had a little midget, and he would drive around and run lots of cups and things like that, and we would go to that. And we also went to the conference up at Blackpool for the police motor clubs. We also had police balls once a year. And then once I got children, they did the police parties for the children, and that was really good. They would be taken out to pantomimes, they'd be given a party, all sorts of treats and presents and things, and children really, they still remember them today. My son and my daughter still talk about it.
Yes, it can be lonely, but then every week is different, or every fortnight was different, because they used to change shifts once a fortnight. Fortnight of mornings, fortnight of late turn, 2 till 10, and then a night. So You had to be there most of the time to make sure he was going to get a meal and get some sleep and things like that. But on the other hand, you did have some hours, if he was on early 10, where you could go out together in the afternoon. And you didn't go out much in the evening if you had a family.
It was very difficult living with a police officer because they did horrible shifts. They did 2 to 10, 6 to 2s, and night duties, which were from 10 o'clock till 6 in the morning. You couldn't really arrange to do anything because only once a month he had a weekend off. So you couldn't really arrange to do anything because he wasn't going to be there, which meant a lot of family weddings, family parties and things I had to attend on my own because he couldn't get his time off. And we spent lots of Christmases on our own. Well, I can remember a famous one where we had our Christmas lunch at 11:30, all the presents opened, everything done. He went off to work and I was left with the 2 children. And that was their Christmas over because my mother was down in Rye. We couldn't then go off down to there. And we were just indoors. And I can remember I took them out for a long walk. And as we were going down the road, there's all these families who were still having their dinner. And it was a very, very lonely time.